Hello and welcome to Mindful Mondays, where we start our week out mindfully and intentionally by focusing on our relationship with God, specifically by trying to grow in our prayer life. Today we're talking about praying in your workplace or school. I am very fortunate to work in a workplace that was founded by a Christian organization. I'm assistant to the CEO there, and he happens to be a man who loves the Lord with his actions, not just with his words. All of that means I can stop and pray at any point in my day with anyone or alone. I can invite others to join me in praying, and I am often invited by others to join them in praying. That level of freedom to pray on my job is right around the 100% mark. It's pretty nice. But what if you work in a place that wasn't founded by a Christian organization? What if your supervisor doesn't love Jesus? What if praying noticeably is a thing that could get you written up? Or what if you could lose your job for praying aloud in the workplace? Are you powerless then to pray in your workplace? If you're still in school and there's a policy about keeping faith and state separate there, are you unable to pray? Nope. Absolutely not. The beauty of the way that God gave us to communicate with Him, which is prayer, is that no one can ever stop you from doing it. You can pray without speaking the words. You can even pray while you're talking, while you're saying something to someone else. You can pray at the same time, silently in your mind. The Christian faith was dominant in our culture for a long time. And I think that those of us in the church got used to the privileges that came with that, like the privilege to insist that others live according to our own faith traditions, even if they are not people of our faith. As the culture shifts and Christians are less and less in charge of things, it can be easy to get offended and defensive. Kind of like Chester Bing. Maybe you can hear him in the background. He is offended and defensive that my bedroom door is shut. Never mind. Anyway, it can be easy to get that way and to expend a whole lot of energy fighting for, our rights. And that right being to force others to bend themselves to our ways. Maybe a better way than that to expend our energy and hone our focus would be to focus on what we can do rather than on what we can't. And to focus on loving Christ and others and trusting God with others' habits and others' lifestyles. So rather than insisting that we must be permitted to take time away to pray in a visible, organized way in our workplace or school, maybe we could keep in mind Matthew 6:6. Here's what it says. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners and in the synagogues where everyone can see them. I tell you the truth, that is all the reward they will ever get. But when you pray, go away by yourself, shut the door behind you, and pray to your Father in private. Then your Father, who sees everything, will reward you. The great thing about prayer is that it doesn't have to be allowed in front of others. It doesn't have to be perceived by others in any way. It doesn't have to fit a certain form in order to be heard by God. You can literally go into your closet to pray, but also you can have private prayer literally anywhere that you are, since thought prayers are a real thing actually heard by God. I worked in a public high school for a few years, and while I never led any class in prayer or any other group in prayer, I prayed there every day, all day long, every time I worked. I prayed for the students and I prayed for the staff. I prayed over situations and stories. There was never a shortage of things to pray over at the school. I never tried to push anyone toward prayer, but I had my Bible with me and some other faith-related books, on my desk or whatever, and kids noticed, and sometimes they'd ask for prayer. And never, in all the time that I worked there, did anyone care about whether I was praying one-on-one with a student. There was no objection. Prayer in the workplace is really, even if you can't pray with other people, even if your place is that stifling. A prayer in the workplace is really just about being watchful and intentional, making a point to see what you need to see so that you will know to pray what you need to pray. It doesn't have to be done in some kind of mystical way. It doesn't have to call attention to itself. I've never seen a scripture that says people have to know that you're praying for them in order for the prayers to work. It doesn't have to ever be known by the people for whom you are praying. You can just leave it to God. Leave it up to God whether they will be shown that or not. And maybe God will open an opportunity for them to know, but that's God's business. It's not yours. If you happen to work somewhere where prayer is allowed, hey, gather a group and, pray in a group. Use that power of the two or more gathered together as you may. But if your employer doesn't allow visible prayer on work time, on the clock, if your school bans public prayer, maybe don't expend a huge amount of energy, and angst on changing that or on holding resentments about it. Maybe just focus on what you can do rather than on what you can't. You can pray in the workplace. No one can stop you from praying in the workplace. So let's just do that this week. Let's imagine how many different workplaces might be changed and how radically if we as Christians spent less time complaining and striving and fighting for our rights and more time praying to the God who created it all. Let's be the change we want to see in the workplace and in our schools. That's all for this week. I will see you next time.